Hello and welcome back to Going to Extra Time with myself, Regan Walsh, and as ever, Brad Morris. And in this special episode, we are going to be talking about everything that happened in the January transfer window as it slammed shut yesterday. And it was a transfer window that was filled with a lot of talking points. But before we get into them, make sure you give us a star rating and like and subscribe to us on our YouTube page as well. And follow us on Twitter at OffTCPod to keep up to date with all the news and stories. So, Brad, transfer window has ended, and good window in the end.
It's pretty decent, but if honest, right now, this point with transfer window is the main takeaway I get every time is I'm so glad I don't have Fabrizio Romano's job.
Yeah. I mean, that man, well, for those who obviously didn't know, yesterday on deadline day, he did a 12-hour live stream, and the man was just working non-stop, like he was barely off his phone, like whether he's getting WhatsApp messages or texts or phone calls, and you're like, Jesus Christ, that man works hard. But yeah, it was a very good transfer window in general, and not just deadline day as well. I think there were some good deals made by clubs across this January window.
Yeah, it was okay, like at the start, but it felt like it really picked up the further we went down the line and then got close to deadline day and clubs were being a bit more active.
Yeah. I think that's always the way though. When it comes to any window, the first couple of weeks, like if we go to the summer, it's usually quite dry, and then the further along we go, closer to the season starting, like talking summer, then you see clubs starting to do deals a bit more. And with the January window, it's always going to be hard because teams don't want to lose their best players, do they?
Well, not all of them. Obviously, some are a lot more willing to do the business if they could get the right fee, as we've seen with some examples in this window.
But yeah, I definitely wasn't disappointed with deadline day either yesterday. Definitely some very surprising stuff go on, which we can get onto in a minute or two. But if we go forward to the very start of this window, I think we've got to talk about your Aston Villa side making some decent moves quite early on in the transfer window. If you remember, Coutinho came in, what was that, about the first week or two of the window, was it? I can't remember. It was really early on.
It feels really early on. And I was prepared to talk about Coutinho stuff later, but hey, I like talking about my Villa. So we'll carry on. Yet this still feels incredibly mad to say Philippe Coutinho is an Aston Villa player.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if someone told me 12 months ago that I would be seeing Philippe Coutinho back in the Premier League and at Aston Villa, I'd be like, you're having an absolute laugh here, because it just didn't seem realistic at the time, and even now it just doesn't seem real.
You were telling me that. You couldn't stop telling me how unrealistic it was and that you shouldn't get your hopes up.
Oh yeah. It just until it materialised and I saw the official statement from Aston Villa, I just didn't believe it, and I was like, why? And then, like, obviously everyone knows what his wages were like at Barca, and obviously it's been reported that he's taken a pay cut to join Aston Villa, so that was just one that I thought, it's actually a really good deal, like how you've managed to get it sorted, and you've got the option to make it a permanent deal in the summer. So I think if all goes well, and he has started off quite well for years.
Well, we can't say a lot after 2 games, and that's a half an hour, 20-minute, half an hour appearance against Manchester United, and then a game against Everton where he seemed to be struggling with the physicality that Everton brought to that game. Still a quality player, and he will offer us a lot because he's exactly what we need.
Yeah. But I think he will do quite well going forth. Who else was an early deal? I'm trying to think, because there was quite a lot of deals that just didn't seem to happen in the first week. Everton, they managed to get a few in quite early on. That Vitaly Mikalenko and Nathan Patterson were Everton's 2 early deals in this window. We haven't really seen much of Patterson yet, but Mikolenko I think has played 1 or 2 games since his move has been completed.
As far as I'm aware, he's the only left back at the club.
Yes, I think he actually might be. That wouldn't surprise me too much if that is now the case, because obviously Lucas Dean has left them to join your Aston Villa side. Everton's business on a whole this transfer window was quite strange. Obviously they ended up sacking Rafa Benitez part of the way through this transfer window. But yeah, a lot of their deals, obviously before their deadline day stuff, were just like, is this going to improve their squad that much?
Considering the position they were in, they needed strengthening, but of course, beyond the scenes, if you're dealing with getting a new manager in, that it's going to affect your transfer business. You can't just sign players for the sake of it. You need to sign players that are going to fit the manager, which they ended up doing. We'll speak on that in a bit. But I always feel sorry for an Anwar El Ghazi and all this.
Yeah, because like he's moved to them to try and get more playing time, and he probably would have definitely got more of that under Rafa. But now that Frank Lampard's the manager at Everton, I don't know whether he really fits much into that system.
I've just realised that Frank Lampard will still be hurting from the fact that Anwar El Ghazi stopped his Derby from getting promoted.
Oh God, he's definitely not playing there. But yeah, it's going to be I am really interested to see how Everton's other new signings embed into that squad, which we'll talk about later. Newcastle, obviously this was their first transfer window where they had all their funds available to them after the takeover was completed mid-October, I think it was now.
It was around then, yeah. This is mad because it wasn't the big 200 million spending spree that everyone was reporting it was going to be, because of course it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, and we all knew realistically they weren't going to get in those big players that everyone was expecting, the likes of, I know everyone, Newcastle fan could dream, but like the Mbappes, the Haalands, all of these type of players. We knew realistically they would end up signing the players that they did, and
I was going to say, put some respect on Chris Wood's name.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the deals that they have done completed, they're, I think, good core players that Newcastle need to help them get out of this relegation scrap.
Yeah, and look, no offence to Kieran Trippier, but Bruno Gimenez is without a doubt the first big marquee signing of this new ownership.
Oh, 100%. He's one that you can see being a core member of this Newcastle team going forward. And if in the summer they do go on a crazier spending spree than what they did this January, then he will still be a focal point to this team. And the only way now would be like if he's putting in outstanding performances and they're not doing well, Newcastle, that's the only way I can see him leaving. So like a top 6 team or a top European team coming for him in the future will be the only way he leaves Newcastle in the future.
Or if it's like 3 years down the line, they're not top 6. Like they were Villa are pretty much.
Yeah.
Like mid-table, you try to show a bit of ambition, but you just can't get over that hurdle, and then he realises, well, I've probably got to go to a big club for success.
Yeah. But it's definitely going to be a key player with Eddie Howe, and it'll be very interesting to see how he adapts to the Premier League over the next coming months. But then, like you said, the other transfers they've done early on, Kieran Trippier coming in was their first signing of this new era at Newcastle. A bit of a surprise that they went for like Trippier being like a 31-year-old and coming obviously back from Spain where he'd won the La Liga title previously with Atletico Madrid. Obviously he'd been linked with Manchester United heavily over the last 12-18 months, and a move didn't materialise there, so to see him back in the Premier League is good, but it kind of caught me off guard because it wasn't a deal I was expecting to see happen.
Maybe not, but I do believe that it is the right kind of signing for them at this moment in time. They need quality that's going to get them away from the relegation.
Yeah, quality and that experience of knowing how to put in like a top performance week in, week out in the Premier League, and that's what Trippier did a lot during his time at Tottenham, and then he was just ever so consistent under Diego Simeone at Atletico, and yeah, it's a sensible signing that makes sense when you look at it now at Newcastle.
And we'll have more discussion later because he wasn't even the best fullback that they signed this window.
Right, just having a quick look at other stuff that's happened before we go into a bit more depth of the stuff. Big players leaving, nothing really like early on in the window you could say, okay, that's a bit of a surprise. Arsenal, though, they seem to loan out a few players, mainly being Ainsley Maitland-Niles probably being their big player that they have loaned out to AS Roma. Considering the depth that Arsenal have up front, I'm quite surprised to see him go now. Obviously, there was all this stuff in the summer, but it's one of them where I feel like they could have still used him in that team.
Yeah, like any team of quality needs depth. Like you need strong quality in terms of your options in case of injuries, because if you don't have that, you start calling for postponements.
Well, yes. And I mean, we've seen some of their benches over the recent weeks. They've got a lot of like young academy players that isn't really known much to your average Premier League fan, and I don't know how many Arsenal fans will know a lot of them. So that was one loan that they did. Again, Florian Balogun. Go on.
All I want to know is which one of these exits is going to have their Danny Rose moment in the All or Nothing documentary.
I think it'll be the one that we can discuss later on.
There's numerous options. I've said it at this point. Amazon should put All or Nothing behind a paywall. They will make millions. People will pay to watch this.
It's going to be absolute hilarity from the lows at the start of this season.
I hope Amazon aren't listening, actually, because they will do it.
Yeah, I mean, losing the first game of the season to Brentford, to then going on that bit of a good run in like October, November time, to all this drama with Aubameyang and all the behind the scenes stuff, postponements with COVID and all that. Like it really is going to be a great watch. I mean, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wait until the autumn of this year for it to come out.
I feel like we could get regular podcasts out just discussing each episode.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one to watch out for. But otherwise, outgoings in the Premier League quite early on in the window, nothing too surprising.
Not for me, really, at least. Unless there is one that we've missed.
I'm just having a look at the Premier League sheet now of all the deals done, and Ferran Torres leaving Manchester City for Barcelona.
Yeah, look, that was right at the start. That's gone.
Yeah, I forgot how early that was in the window.
Yeah, it was a weird one. Clearly didn't feel that he could, I guess, suit English football, or it's maybe that ideology with a Spanish football. If a Barcelona's going to come calling, how are you going to turn that down?
Yeah, I wanted him to do, like, not just because I think he's an exceptional talent and we've been able to see it on the national stage for Spain so far, but I think he's such a good talent that it's a shame that we didn't get to see him do it all over here in the Premier League. And hopefully one day he does come back, although unlikely because obviously we know he's a Barca boy, and like you said, Spanish stars. If Barcelona or Real Madrid come calling, how many people turn that down? But yeah, what was he here, 2 years or so?
Yeah, it felt like he was here for 1 year.
He may well have been. But yeah, it's a shame to see him go, but it wouldn't surprise me if he absolutely flourishes at Barcelona, which we can get onto them in a few minutes or two. Other than that, no big outgoings early on in this window at all.
If I can move us on, because there were a lot of outgoings when it came to deadline day deals.
Yeah, I mean, this deadline day was probably a lot of big outgoings rather than you see like big incomings. I mean, let's get the cat out of the bag and start back at Everton. I mean, they've signed Dele Alli on a permanent deal from Spurs on a 2.5-year deal, so his contract runs to the same length as Frank Lampard's does until June 2024. I think that's a really smart bit of business from Everton, because obviously they've lost, I think it was Fabian Delph and Abdoulaye Doucouré for a long period of time due to injuries, and I think Ali himself needed to get out of Spurs.
Yeah, this whole deal's weird. If you look at all the different bits of reporting on it, no one really knows. Is it a free? Are they paying for him? Like, who knows?
Well, from what I've seen reported from Fabrizio Romano is they don't pay Spurs until he reaches 20 games, and then they pay a €10 million fee after he reaches the 20-game mark, and then based on other incentives and I think more appearances, then it could potentially rise up to somewhere between 35 and 40 million euros, which it's a weird way of a deal being done.
Yeah, especially if they're receiving it in euros. What are they going to do in this country with that?
Well, obviously Fabrizio Romano reports in euros because he's an Italian journalist, so that's about, what, I think somewhere between 7 and £9.5 million initially after playing the 20 games.
There will secretly be a lot of people at Spurs hoping that he really does do good then.
But yeah, it's such a good deal for both parties in that sense. Then they obviously, earlier on in the day, they managed to loan in Donny Van Der Beek from Manchester United.
He's free.
Smart bit of business from both sides. United, like you say, he wasn't getting played at all under either Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and now Ralf Rangnick, and again I think he's going to shine at this Everton team, and he will probably be their star player for the rest of the season. Like, he's got so much ability, and I think
if I was to step in, that's a very interesting prediction from you.
I think we will see he's back to his Ajax best.
Who was it? I think I've just realised like him and Al Ghazi were teammates at Ajax as well, so at least he's going there knowing that there's someone there that he knows, at least.
Possibly, yeah. Well, I mean, they're both Dutch.
Well, let's just face it, the fact that he's going to be playing football again will just make him happy.
And I think what benefits United in that deal is there is no way to make the loan permanent. So say if again, this is all just purely speculation, but if they were to bring in Erik ten Hag in the summer, Van der Beek knows exactly what Ten Hag will want of him because they work together at Ajax. So it's a smart deal. Van der Beek gets 6 months or so of game time, and then United can have a quality player come back and get proper playing time if Erik ten Hag comes in. Even if Pochettino comes in, I think he'd be used under him.
Yeah, like the guy's too good. But we'll see. I feel like it's just a case of needing the game time and just playing more. Just play him.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look elsewhere. Deals that happened on deadline day. Obviously, this one isn't fully announced yet as a time recording by the clubs, but Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang all but left Arsenal, obviously barring the official confirmation from both sides. I mean, that genuinely nearly had a case of Peter Odemwingie vibes to it, didn't it?
We can't lie, we were all hoping that it got there.
Oh yeah, I was 100% waiting for it just to see like his transfer got cancelled, and
it's like the wording of everything as well, because Arsenal, we didn't know he was there. It was almost like they were forced to just allow this to happen. They caved in so easily.
Yeah, allegedly he'd gone over because he's apparently got a house out in Barcelona.
Coincidence.
Yeah, so he'd gone to see his family apparently that live out there. Then there was stuff like saying Arsenal hadn't given him permission, so he was going to be forced on his way back to London. But then it would have been interesting to see what would have happened with him if a move didn't materialise for the rest of the season. Would he have just been kept in the stands for the remainder of it?
I could dream of an all or nothing scene of Edu receiving the call that Aubameyang is in Barca.
Honestly, that just
never gonna happen. Like, we're dreaming too much now. There's no way.
And then even this whole situation of what the deal is, again, is another quite confusing one. Is it a loan for the remainder of the season, then Barcelona get him for free? But then there seems to be other reports saying that like he's cancelling his contract at Arsenal and joining Barcelona on a free. And then even the way his wages are being structured as well is quite strange as well from the reports I've been seeing.
The whole report comes to, I know we want it to be Premier League focused, but how are Barcelona getting all these players? They've obviously found a way to get around what they're under.
Yeah, so what I've gathered with that situation is they've had to sell a few players, obviously, which was always going to happen. But then the way these players are getting their contract structured is that the remainder of this season they're going to be like on really low wages, and then what they haven't earned, say this season, will be going like we'll see them get it in the next seasons over their contract. So say for instance, Ferran Torres is on 100 grand a week at Barcelona. Obviously, this is all just me saying like fake reports. Obviously, I don't know what his contract is. But say he's on 100 grand. This season, he may be getting like 60 grand, and then he will get the next 40 grand over the years, and on top of whatever his wages would be. So I think that's how they're working it out to economically work within the La Liga cap rules.
Obviously, we are not financial experts. Like when you say like that, I just found myself done and just nodding off, just slowly. Like, oh, stop it.
Yeah, it is quite confusing how they've managed to do, but obviously they have the legal representation that has allowed them to do all this. So it is quite interesting to see get these deals done.
Right.
Again.
Well, I don't know. Well, I'll let you have that last point.
What I was going to say was the last two Newcastle incomings, both done on deadline day, managed to bring in Matt Targett from your Aston Villa on loan, and they've actually managed to permanently sign Dan Burn from Brighton, despite Brighton saying all window that they weren't going to allow him to leave.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice here because it's Villa Twitter, I've said on podcasts in the past, is a funny place. Because we've gone at the start of this window saying we need to replace Matt Targett. He's not good enough. And then the second Matt Targett leaves on loan, no, why are you getting rid of Matt Targett?
Oh yeah, I mean, the amount of times we spoke about him, was it earlier on this season, getting exposed on that left hand side was incredible. Like,
I will say this to Newcastle fans, if they're listening to this, he's not a bad player. You're getting a player that attacking wise is pretty decent. Crossing, very debatable, that I will say. But when he had Grealish next to him, he was another level.
Yeah.
We were talking about him for the England squad, almost around this area last season. It's gone off a bit this year. I don't know if injuries have hampered him. Like, I don't think he had a good pre-season.
Obviously, you would know more into that than I do because obviously you're follow Villa more in-depthly. But yeah, he hasn't been at his usual best as to what he has been in previous years at the Villa. But I think it's a deal that could work out for Newcastle for this season. And again, is that just a straight loan, no option to buy, is it?
As far as I'm aware, yeah. But I feel like if they want to buy him, it would be 20 plus.
Is that without added English and added Newcastle tax? Because you know what's going to happen now. I was going to say, because you know what is going to happen now with Newcastle, they get added an extra 5-10 million onto a player's worth because everyone knows they're the richest club in world football, and then with Matt Targett being an English
there's the question. Do you think that was the case with Dan Burn then?
I think so, yeah. It was like it seemed to me that like he was Eddie Howe's number one prime target, and it just seemed to be dragged on for a long time. And I don't know whether the full fee was disclosed, but I think it's around 13 to 15 million for Dan Burn in the end.
Like, realistically, it's not a bad signing because look at the rest of the Newcastle defence, it's crap.
Yeah, and
crap.
North East lad himself, so it's his boyhood club, so he knows everything about the team and what it means to fight for the passionate Magpie fans.
So they've sold 3 pretty decent defenders on their day. The defence already looks a lot different. They've signed a very good midfielder that will add a new dimension, and they've got a whole new front line.
Yeah. It's going to be... but can they get them all to gel together and playing well is the main question for Eddie Howe and co going forward.
Well, that is the case, and because we're close to the end, I would like a review from you on certain teams that I'm just going to name, and I want your opinion on whether you think they've had a good or bad window. So I'm going to start with Newcastle.
Yeah. I'm going to say they've had a good window, got players in positions they needed to. It's an improvement of the team, and I think overall Newcastle fans can be happy with that transfer window. So I think they had a good solid window. I'd give them, if it was to give them a score mark out of 10, I'd say a strong 7 or 8 out of 10. I think that was a really good window for Newcastle.
Next team I named here is Arsenal.
Outgoings, I think they got rid of players they needed to get rid of, and I've got no problems with many of their outgoings. I think Balogun and Maitland-Niles would probably be my only 2. They've obviously got some deals going to happen in the summer with Austin Trusty from the Colorado Rapids, although he's not, well, from the statement that I've read, he's not actually going to be playing for them next season because apparently they plan to loan him out and then bringing in Matt Turner from the New England Revolutions because Bernd Leno seems to be on his way out. I think a 5 or a 6 because Arsenal fans, they seem to know that they needed some players to help Arteta push for that top 4 more controllably, so they didn't really address what they needed to.
Yeah, so I'll stick to your supporting club, and that is Manchester United. Could they have done some business?
No. Let's be clear here. Did United need to do transfers? Yes. However, we all know, or I would strongly say Ralph Rangnick is not going to be the manager in the summer, so it's pointless bringing in a player who may not be used by the new manager come the summer, and obviously if you don't know your manager, it's pointless trying to do any deal. So I think I went into this window knowing that United weren't going to do any business.
Right, and speaking of clubs...
And let me just finish on with United. In terms of outgoings, again, I think all the players that they let go out on loan, so Donny Van Der Beek, Amad Diallo, Anthony Martial, I think they're all good deals for them players to get them more playing time, and obviously United have the chance to bring them back in the future. So I think United had a strong window in that sense, so I'd give them around a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Right, and moving to another club that probably could have done more business, so that's Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, only bought in one player from Espanyol, so I think they needed to do more business because they haven't been their usual selves this season. So I think it's very disappointing for Leeds fans, but I think their main key and target this window was keeping hold of Rafinha, because there was lots of reports throughout the whole window that teams were going to make a move for him, but they managed to keep hold of him, so can't complain too much there.
Yeah, nice. Going slightly over, but I actually want your thoughts on 3 specific deals in particular. We did speak about this on another podcast, but I want your final thoughts with Luis Diaz signing for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good signing. He looks like a really good player, and I think he will be a great signing for Jurgen Klopp's side.
Could I also get your opinion on one of the deals that actually went really under the radar, potentially could be the most underrated one on the ball, and that's Wout Weghorst going to Burnley?
Yeah, I think it's what Burnley needed, obviously losing Chris Wood to Newcastle, so they needed a striker, and they get a typical Sean Dyche type player, like big, strong, tall player. It's exactly what Burnley usually go for, and I think it's a good signing for them.
It was like a very good one. Like, he's got a goal in him.
Yeah. I want to ask you to pick your signing of this window.
Jesus Christ. I don't know why. I feel like in time, Luis Diaz potentially could be pretty something for Liverpool. So I think, even for right now and also long-term aspects, I would say that.
For me, I'm going to have to give it to the opposite side of Manchester and give it to Julian Alvarez, because he looks like an absolute steal at, 10 to 17 million?
Yeah, do you know, we can also share the pain of having both our clubs linked to him and then not sign him.
Yeah. I mean, young 22-year-old forward, absolutely lighting it up at the minute. I mean, he's just... I don't want to say it too much and put the pressure on him, but I feel like he could have a Sergio Aguero type effect. Like, he's the striker that City are kind of crying out for, and he would get the goals that would fire them that further over the line. Obviously, they've got a gap in between themselves and the other teams in terms of fighting for the Premier League title, but yeah, I think he is such a good signing for them.
But potentially, maybe.
Well, yeah.
I want to add this last one. I feel like it's only right we end this with a nice one, because it's so good to see Christian Eriksen is potentially playing again.
Yeah, obviously it was announced on deadline day that he signed a 6-month contract with Brentford. Just excellent to see him being able to play football again. Obviously after what happened to them last summer, to him last summer, and obviously it's a shame that he wasn't able to continue his career at Inter because of laws in Italy football that you can't play with, and things like it's not really a pacemaker, but something to help his heart going. So yeah, it's just a great story to see him back playing football, and let's see how well he can do helping the Bees out for the remainder of this season.
Yeah, I hope it goes very well for him. That is all. We've got is the extra time of extra time.
Yeah. Overall, great transfer window, and I'm already looking forward to the summer, because the free agents coming up as it stands. Woo-hoo, I think this might top last summer's window.
I'm so glad I don't do the social media.
I mean, I'm hoping that they don't all go down to deadline day, because Jesus Christ.
I think we could say it's very unlikely that will happen.
Yeah, I think we'll have a lot of deals announced quite early on. But yeah, it's going to be a great window, and overall January was a great window as well. So make sure you like and subscribe, like I said at the start, wherever you are listening to us from, and make sure you are following us on Twitter as well, at OffTCPod, for all the latest news and stories from around the world of football. And until later on this week, where we will return with our usual preview show looking ahead to the FA Cup weekend here in England. Until then, it's goodbye from Brad.
See ya.
And goodbye from me. We'll see you soon.